have any of you noticed that over the last few days, it genuinely feels as though, well, actually, not even just the last 2 days, over the last few months, it feels like the chaos, the catastrophes, the problems are hitting far more often than what they've ever done before. We're used to, in South Africa, a bad government. We're used to a government that every once in a while will make a misstep and then we'll all learn about it. Like, for example, spending 800 million rand on a licensing machine that is the wrong licensing machine because it cannot print the licensing cards that we use in South Africa, even though the budget was only 400 million, stuff like that, right? Where that happens, and it's kind of annoying, but at the same time, we're sort of used to it. And in the past, I mean, that has happened, right? We had Jacob Zuma as the president, but even under Jacob Zuma, it never felt quite to this level. Now, ever since the GNU came into effect, it genuinely feels like every single week, multiple storms is hitting South Africa, and at a moment where South Africa's ship really cannot withstand multiple storms. We have nothing left. We have a debt to GDP ratio of 76%. That's bad. We have a country with a shrinking tax base with literally less than 7 million people paying all of the taxes. We have a country where unemployment is soaring for everyone. Fundamentally, we have a country that is on the verge of collapse. 1,000 companies pay 90% of all the corporate tax in South Africa. We don't have the leg room or the wiggle room to really face any more storms, and yet the storms are hitting faster and faster every single day. And at the core of this storm is America. Now, there's plenty of reasons why I think we're in this newfound storm. I think it's sort of a coalescence of factors. I think on the one side, you have a group of cadres that are realizing that the party is almost over. The fact that the ANC came under 50% signals to them that steal now as much as you can, because there might not be a tomorrow to steal more. I think there's also the added benefit of just more oversight because you have more people in government. There's far less places to hide. In the past, the ANC sort of had this wall around everything that happened in government. But then I also think there's another more important than any of the others, and that is a general sort of sickness within the world of legacy apartheid, right? In the past, whenever the ANC made a mistake, whenever Jacob Zuma, sold off parts of the country, the ANC could go, oh, but we fought apartheid. And the rest of the world would go, oh, yeah, that's true. You guys did fight apartheid. Well, here's another 5 billion euro or dollar or whatever. Now that doesn't work as much, right? Most people in Europe, if you look at the polls in Europe, they're sick and tired of foreigners. They don't want Europe to be involved in foreign countries anymore. There is a national sort of interest that's starting to move throughout the Western world. Donald Trump has made it very clear that he has no white guilt and he has no interest in playing white guilt games. And that, I think, has been the ANC's biggest problem. They can no longer rely on the name of Nelson Mandela because that name has been tarnished to the point where no one really pays attention to it anymore. So when last week, the chief general of the South African National Defence Force, General Maphwanya, went to Iran, made an official statement. He literally started his speech by saying, this is not just a military agreement, but this is actually a state-sanctioned meeting that we're having here, and I greet you in the name of Motshekga, the Minister of Defense and Veterans, I believe, as well as the name of Cyril Ramaphosa. He was making it very official that South Africa is in alliance with America, or with Iran, excuse me, not with America. We could be in an alliance with America, but we decided not to do that. Instead, we're going to go for the very bad state of Iran. At the time when this happened, I made videos and I said, look, this is really bad, right? And because it signals to the Americans that we are now military alliance partners with one of their biggest enemies. And the US hopefully doesn't notice. That was the one hope we had, was that the US doesn't take notice of this. Well, that's over now. The US has taken notice. The embassy has basically written to the president asking for clarification on the exact stance of the South African government. It read as follows: the US government has taken note with great concern of the statements made by a senior SANDF official in Iran, as well as the conflicting messages from senior South African government representatives in response. We are seeking clarification from the government of South Africa on the official South African government policy regarding Iran. Now, the reason this is super, super interesting and why we should focus on the wording here. America isn't confused, right? That's not why America is asking for official clarification. They want official clarification so that they can hit South Africa with it once the official clarification is made. So if South Africa says that, well, no, we're not in an alliance with Iran, America now has that on the official record, which means that if South Africa breaks that, America has cause to punish South Africa for that because they're now breaking a promise that they've made and an official statement that they have made. The Americans are not confused. That's not why they're asking for the clarification, but it is important to know exactly what the official stance is of a country before this happens. The fact that this comes from the US embassy itself, you have to understand embassies don't act on their own. Embassies act at the behest of the State Department. So the State Department, ran by Marco Rubio in the United States, Marco Rubio, most likely senior officials around Marco Rubio, would have known and would have asked the embassy to get this official clarification. Of course, Macheka, the Minister of Defense in South Africa, she came out on the 15th of August, that's about 6 days ago, and she effectively said that, well, she knew about the thing, right? Like it was scheduled. Now, what's interesting about it is they make it seem like America is just angry because they're now currently angry with Iran. And that this meeting was already set in 2024. In fact, when you go on the official Justice, Crime Prevention, Security Twitter feed or X feed, you find that they make the exact same mistake here. Right? It says that the Department of Defense wishes to clarify the rationale behind the recent official visit to the chief by the chief of the South African National Defense Force, General Rudzani Maphwanya, to the Islamic Republic of Iran. The official visit was scheduled to take place in 2024, but was postponed to 2025. You see, they're playing this game of saying, wait, we didn't schedule this just because we're at war, in a tariff war with America. We already scheduled this before you guys started doing the tariff. So we're really innocent in all of this. We're not doing this to spite you. This just sort of happened, right? But here's what Macheka had to say. I gave him permission, so that is why I wasn't sure whether it is because Iran is in conflict with America, so we mustn't touch them, and we must not get close. We have our own bilaterals with different countries. You see, she's playing this whole game of, I don't understand why the Americans are angry at us, right? We are just doing what we do for our own national interest. And the reason they're playing this dumb game isn't because they're dumb. It isn't because they don't understand. It's because they have gotten away with it for so long. In the past, whenever South Africa would form alliances with really bad countries around the world, South Africa could just play the dumb card, like the ignorance card. Well, we don't know what is going on here. And nothing would happen because the rest of the world would just believe it. That's not going to fly here. And this is why they're sort of focusing on trying to move everything around. And yet, bad news is afoot, right? You have, for example, just yesterday, the United States Department of State has announced massive sanctions against 4 individuals at the ICC, the International Criminal Court, right? These 4 people are currently involved in the lawsuit against Israel, and all 4 of them have now been sanctioned by the United States State Department. We have, furthermore, the MTN probe that is currently going on in the US, and that, by the way, is a massive story. We have covered that in separate videos. But effectively, all you need to know is MTN stands accused of aiding and abetting the Iranian regime in killing Israeli and American civilians as well as servicemen. This would put Cyril Ramaphosa directly in the crosshairs because a lot of the deals between MTN and Iran was made while Cyril Ramaphosa was the head of the board of directors. So this would mean Cyril Ramaphosa himself was involved in a lot of this. There's also part of this probe, it's now in front of a grand jury. Part of this probe now is also suggesting that South Africa had prior knowledge to the October 7th attacks, which would be really bad for us. Effectively, the truth of the matter is that South Africa is playing a very dangerous cat and mouse game with America, and we're trying to preserve our friendship with one of the most evil regimes on the planet. The only regime more evil would be that of North Korea. The Iranian government, the Iranian royal guard, they are tyrants. Their own people are slaughtered en masse if they dare to not follow the rules of the land. This is a country that suppresses women. Women are not allowed to study. They're not allowed to go to school. I think the average marriage age in Iran, or the average age of consent, or the minimum age of consent rather, is something like 9 or 12. So when Cyril Ramaphosa stood at the national dialogue and said, "Oh, women are still oppressed in South Africa," I just looked at that and I was like, "Wait, but you guys are friends with Iran. Like, you want to talk about women being oppressed? Let's go to Iran. Let's ask the Iranians how they feel about female liberation, right?" Fundamentally, Iran is a very bad friend to have. And look, you can have your feelings about America and being friends with America, being friends with Israel. Like, you don't have to be friends with America or with Israel, right? We as South Africa can be friends with everyone. The problem is that we seem to pick our friends in such a way that we purposefully antagonize the Americans. And then, like Angie Motshekga did here, she pretends like the only reason America is angry is because of the tariffs. And it has nothing to do with South Africa actually just exercising our right to have the friends that we want to have, not realizing that the reason for the tariffs is this exact action. It's what you guys have been doing for so long that is bringing about these tariffs. It's not the other way around. You're the cause of this. But just as a final warning to President Trump, if you think, right, that you can attack South Africa, that you can invade us, if you think that we're scared of you, we're not. And I can prove it. You may have a world-class military, and perhaps your military is bigger than ours, but we have this. And I tell you what, she's an absolute unit on the battlefield. Not so much in the movement or hiding, but a unit nonetheless, very visible. A sniper's dream, they used to call her. But ultimately, guys, it's a joke, right? Fundamentally, this is a joke. South Africa is playing with forces that we should not be contending with. We should not be trying to face off against these forces. We're in no position to fight the Americans or anyone else in the world. We should be making friends, and we should try to pick our friends in such a way that they actually make sense. Iran is a backwater country. It has a very tiny economy. In no way, shape, or form can Iran help South Africa in anything, right? So why are we making friends with them? I understand being friends with Russia. I understand being friends with China. And you will note, the Americans have not taken that much offense to us being friends with China or with Russia. It's really this Iran thing that is causing them a lot of problems. So, that's just my 2 cents on the matter. I'd love to read your thoughts in the comment section down below. So please let me know what you think of this entire situation. Then, ladies and gentlemen, as always, if you like what I do, you like honest and rational conversation, as well as the news, hopefully brought to you in as unbiased a way as is possible. It will never be fully unbiased. I cannot achieve that. Please consider hitting that like button, hitting that subscribe button, and leaving a comment in the comment section down below, because engagement is king. Then I want to say thank you to all of the patrons, as well as the YouTube channel members. To become a patron, just hit the link in the description down below, or to join the membership, just hit the join button below this video. As always, be good to each other, be kind to each other, and I will see all of you in the next one. Peace.